Finlay the First Aid Bear, the Dare to Golden Mountain. Finlay lived deep in Windy Falls Woods. The woods were filled with some friendly animals and had a beautiful rushing waterfall and even some deep, dark caves. Finlay was proud to call it his home. While many bears loved to laze around, eating honey and berries, Finlay enjoyed exploring Windy Falls Woods. He loved going on fun and exciting adventures. There was a new adventure around every corner. As a young bear, Finlay joined the wilderness warriors. He learned all about nature and how to explore the outdoors without getting lost. Finlay even learned important skills like first aid, how to light a fire, and how to call for an ambulance if someone got hurt. Of all his friends, Finlay was easily the bravest bear. He was never afraid to set off on a new adventure because he was always prepared. One day, Finlay was playing soccer with his best friend, Frederick. Frederick got a nosebleed from running around the blazing hot sun. Finlay knew what to do to help his friend and leaped into action. He helped Frederick into the shade, tilted his head forward, and showed him how to gently pinch the soft part of his nose. Meanwhile, Finlay found a cool washcloth to place on the back of Frederick's neck. The bleeding stopped within 10 minutes. "Thanks, Finlay," said Frederick. Finlay patted his friend on the shoulder. "Come on, let's go find some lunch," he said. With the nosebleed taken care of, the friends set off to find some delicious, gooey honey for their lunch. They spent the afternoon eating honey and watching the sun set over the faraway Golden Mountain. Finlay had always wanted to go there. "I heard the salmon in the creek at the bottom of the Golden Mountain are the sweetest and most delicious in the world," said Finlay. He drooled just thinking of them. Maybe a long hike to Golden Mountain could be his next adventure. After all, it was still school holidays. His parents would never let him take such a long journey alone, but if Frederick came with him, that might just work. "Come with me, Frederick, to Golden Mountain. It'll be fun. We'll catch so much salmon. Let's go tomorrow. If we leave early, we could get there and back in a day. I have an old map." Frederick shook his head. "No way. I heard there's a grumpy monster called the Who's-It that lives there and eats curious bears that try to catch his salmon. He even wears their skins as a coat." "That's just a story old Grimble tells. Everyone knows he is a crazy old bear. Come with me," Finlay pleaded. "I can't," said Frederick. "I have to look after my little brother," he grinned. "But I dare you to go, Finlay. I dare you. Everybody would be talking about you if you brought back the best salmon in the whole world." Finlay didn't care if he was the talk of the woods, but he did love a new adventure and salmon. He'd just have to find a way to explore Golden Mountain by himself. In bed, later that night, Finlay couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious Golden Mountain and catching the best salmon in the world. He had explored many of the abandoned caves and trails in the Windy Falls Woods, so the idea of going to a completely new place was exciting. He wondered about the Who's-It, but he was more afraid of his parents. Surely they wouldn't be mad if he left early and was home before dark with his delicious salmon for everyone. Finlay made up his mind. He was going to Golden Mountain on a new adventure. The next morning, long before the sun was up, Finlay's parents set off to gather food for hibernation. Finlay knew they would be gone all day, so it was the perfect opportunity to explore Golden Mountain. There was just one tiny problem. He was supposed to be looking after his little sister, Eve, while his parents were gone. He could leave her with the neighbors, but he knew there was no way she would stay behind once she saw him packing for an adventure. He would have to take her with him. "Eve, we're going on a secret adventure today to catch salmon. Do you want to help me pack?" Finlay asked. "Yay!" shouted Eve. "What do we need to pack?" Finlay thought about it for a minute. "We'll need food and honey for energy and lots of water to drink. We'll also need soap for washing hands, a cooler bag to store fish, a map and compass so we know where we're going, a pocket tool, and of course, my trusty first aid kit." He made sure his first aid kit had everything he needed in it. resuscitation mask, bandages/dressings, ice pack, scissors plus tape, saline, gloves. "And my teddy bear," said Eve. She quickly packed her backpack. She was so excited she couldn't help singing. "Off to Golden Mountain we go, where the sun shines brightly on the snow. The colors of the peaks are glowing, as the treetops keep on growing. There is a creek down below, where many fish are said to flow. We will be catching plenty, so our bags will not be empty." Finlay and Eve set off, winding their way carefully through the thick green forest. It wasn't long before Finlay realized something wasn't right. The map he brought didn't seem quite the same as the path they were on. Too late to worry about it now, he thought. Best just to keep going. Golden Mountain wasn't that far away. "Finlay," Eve asked, "are we there yet?" They could see Golden Mountain in the distance, looming up high into the clouds. But it still seemed so far away. Confused, Finlay took another look at his map. When he noticed the name in the corner, his heart sank. Grimble! If he knew old Grimble as well as he thought, this map wasn't very good. "We'll be there soon enough," Finlay replied, hoping it was true. "We'll stop soon and have something to eat." Even as they walked through the dense forest, the hot sun made them both sweat quite a lot. It was a hot day, even in the forest. Finlay and Eve were sweaty, tired, and hungry. They decided to stop and rest in a nice shady clearing. "Let's have lunch," said Finlay. Before touching their food, they washed their paws with soap and water to get rid of any dirt and germs they had picked up on their way through the woods. While he was in the Wilderness Warriors, Finlay had learned how important hand washing is to keep germs away. Good hand washing keeps those germs away. Always wash hands with soap and water before eating and after going to the toilet. Nasty germs can make you, and even bears, very sick. Don't forget to scrub between your fingers too. Sing happy birthday twice while you wash. "This is delicious." Sticky honey dripped from Eve's chin. "It's lucky we were prepared and brought a yummy snack. Honey, nuts and berries will give us energy for our adventure," said Finlay. "Don't forget to drink plenty of water too. It is important to stay hydrated. I learned that in the Wilderness Warriors, it is important to rest and drink lots of water, and even have a snack if you've been on a long walk or playing outside in the hot sun. The recommended daily intake of water for children 5 to 8 years old is 5 glasses, 1 liter. After their big lunch, Finlay was feeling full and sleepy. Before long, he had drifted off to sleep. Eve wasn't sleepy though, and soon got bored. A beautiful butterfly fluttered right past her. "Come here, butterfly," she said. "Let me make a wish." Eve loved butterflies and wanted to catch lots of fish, so she followed it back into the woods. Eve was so excited about the butterfly that she wasn't watching where it was going. She tripped over a large rock and fell. She cut her paws and grazed her knees. Panic rose when she looked around and realized she didn't know where she was. Eve was lost, alone, and hurt. Tears ran down her face. "Finlay! Finlay!" she cried loudly, hoping he would hear her. Finlay woke from his nap and looked around. Eve had disappeared. "Eve!" he called again and again. No one called in return. Finlay quickly packed their things and searched the clearing for clues that might show him which way Eve had gone. Finally, he noticed her little paw prints heading deeper into the woods. He set off in the same direction. A short time later, Finlay heard Eve's cries to help and found her. "Eve, what happened? Are you okay?" Finlay knelt to check her injuries. "I chased a butterfly," Eve sobbed. "I wanted to make a wish, but I tripped on a rock. I didn't know where I was. I'm sorry." "It's okay, Eve. I'll get you cleaned up," Finlay said, pulling out his first aid kit. To remove any dirt, he gently cleaned her cut with saline. Next, he placed a wound pad on the cut and wrapped a bandage around it. The scrapes on her knees weren't bad, but Finlay still cleaned them with saline and covered them with Band-Aids. He was glad he had learned first aid so he could help his little sister. To treat cuts and grazes, put gloves on if you have them, or wash your hands with soap and water. Carefully clean the wound by pouring saline onto it to remove any dirt. Gently pat dry with a pad, not cotton wool balls. Stop the bleeding by gently holding a pad on the wound. You can use a Band-Aid for grazes. Wrap a bandage over the pad and hold it with tape. Make sure it's not too tight so little fingers don't turn purple. Call an ambulance or tell Mom or Dad. "I want to go home," Eve cried. She'd had enough of their adventure. "That's probably a good idea. It will be dark soon," said Finlay. This whole dare to Golden Mountain was turning into a disaster. Finlay looked around, unsure which way to go. He didn't know which way led home. He looked through his backpack for his compass, but couldn't find it. Without his compass, they wouldn't be able to find their way out of the woods. "I think we're lost, Eve. I'm going to call for help." "Call. Say. Wait. Stay." Eve repeated the important rhyme she'd learned at school. "That's right, Eve," said Finlay, as he searched through his backpack for his phone. "Call the emergency number. Say who you need to talk to. Wait to be connected and stay on the phone." Finlay couldn't find his phone. "Oh no, I've left my phone at home, too," he cried. Without his compass, Finlay didn't know how to get home. Without his phone, he couldn't call for help. Eve started to cry. "We're lost. I want Mama and Papa Bear." "Don't worry, Eve," Finlay said. "We'll be okay. I'm right here with you." Finlay knew it was important to stay calm in an emergency. He decided to head away from the mountains, hoping they would find the trail home again. He knew that if he didn't make it home before Mama and Papa Bear, he would be in serious trouble and might never be allowed to go on adventures again. The two bears walked on through the woods. Finlay noticed that Eve was limping. "What's wrong with your foot, Eve?" he asked. "It hurts." Eve lifted her foot. "I think I have a blister." "Sit down and let me take a look." Finlay knew how to treat blisters. He quickly went through the steps he'd learned with the wilderness warriors. Do not break blisters open. Germs can get into the wound and cause a nasty infection. Protect blisters with a Band-Aid and see a doctor if it is large or the skin is broken, red or sore. Always show Mom or Dad first. The afternoon cooled as the sun went down. Finlay knew they had to find a safe place to spend the night and build a fire before it got dark. Using the survival skills he'd learned in the wilderness warriors, Finlay built them a teepee from branches and leaves, while Eve got as comfortable as she could. "Mama and Papa Bear will be so angry that we're not home," said Eve, worried. "It'll be okay," Finlay replied. "I'll be the one in trouble, not you." Finlay rubbed two sticks together until he had a fire burning. Satisfied, he stepped aside, but tripped and landed with his paw too close to the hot fire. Gently pour cool water over the burn for 20 minutes. Cover it with a wet towel. Always tell Mom or Dad, as you might need to see a doctor. Finlay yelped in pain. "Quick, Eve, grab the water bottle and pour cool water over my burn." Eve did as Finlay asked. "Is that better?" "Yes, thank you," said Finlay. "Can you please find the special burn dressing in the first aid kit for me?" Eve searched through the first aid kit with the torch to find the special dressing that didn't stick to burns. She examined each item in the first aid kit carefully before selecting the right one and listening closely to Finlay's instructions. Bandages to wrap around a pad or over a cut, or use for a snake bite, or even to wrap around a sore arm or leg. Dressings to cover a cut or graze to keep out nasty germs. Some dressings have plastic on the side so they don't stick to cuts or burns. Saline salt water to wash a cut and remove dirt and germs. Gloves to put on before cleaning any wounds. Resuscitation mask to protect you from body fluids when doing cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR. Tape if needed to hold a dressing over a wound, and scissors to cut tape. Pads or dressings as needed. disposable ice packs to soothe injuries or insect bites, triangular bandages for arm injuries. Meanwhile, Mama and Papa Bear had returned to a dark and empty cave. Their cubs were nowhere in sight. Mama Bear soon realized that some of their things were missing. "The cubs aren't here," she cried, "and Eve's favorite teddy and blanket are gone too." "Take a deep breath. Let's think about this for a second," said Papa Bear. He knew it was important not to panic. "They've probably gone on an adventure together and forgotten to leave us a note. Maybe Finlay's friend Frederick knows where they might have gone." They went to Frederick's cave and spoke with his dad. "Finlay and Eve are missing," Papa Bear explained. Frederick's dad called for his son, Frederick. He noticed the guilty look on Frederick's face. Frederick didn't want to get his friend in trouble, but he was worried about Finlay and Eve too. "I dared Finlay to go to Golden Mountain to catch salmon," Frederick told them, "but it was only supposed to be a day trip. Finlay has an old map that says so." Papa Bear looked worried. "I heard that old Grimble went to Golden Mountain a very long time ago, and it only took him a day to get there and back." "Old Grimble is crazy," replied Frederick's father. "Look at this map. Golden Mountain is a long way from here. They'd never make it there and back in a day." Mama Bear started crying again. In the woods, Finlay and Eve cuddled close together to stay warm. There were so many unfamiliar noises that Eve found it hard to fall asleep. "I'm scared," whispered Eve. "What's that howling sound?" "It's okay. I'm right here with you. Go to sleep," said Finlay. He sang her a lullaby, and she eventually drifted off to sleep. Finlay closed his eyes and hoped they could find the path home when the sun rose. Just then, a strange noise echoed through the woods. Finlay opened his eyes. It wasn't like any of the usual outdoor noises he was used to. He peered into the darkness outside the teepee. Finlay shut his eyes and hoped, really hoped, that the who's it was just a silly story. To be continued.